Great, thank you very much. Hold on. Okay, so the first order of business is I need approval of the agenda, including time limits. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the agenda, including time limits.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. The next item of business is the President's report, and my first comments are to extend a welcome on behalf of Superintendent Kimbrel. She was unable to attend tonight because she is representing us down at the Superintendent Summit down in Monterey for 4 days, and actually is speaking at 2 different workshops. So she's very busy, but she sent a little note. She wishes us well and wanted to reiterate her commitment to a smooth transition over the next 5 months. Secondly, I would also like to welcome everybody. This is the beginning of a very exciting and a very important process in this district. And it's great to have such a good turnout, and I'm looking forward to the process. The last time I was involved in a search, I found it to be one of the more amazing experiences that I've had as a board member. So it's a chance when the whole community comes out and talks about public education and curriculums, and it's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. One of the commitments that I've made, and for the first few months of my presidency, is we drafted norms as a board in November, and is to read them at the beginning of every meeting. For the first few meetings, they're a draft. We're going to revisit them in a couple of months, so we're saying them so we can hear them and see what we like and what we don't in a few months, and they're also posted on the wall. So I'll start with that. We commit to making decisions that are the best interests of students, working towards continuous improvement, communicating with integrity, honesty, and civility, welcoming a diversity of opinions, having effective deliberations, each listening openly while everyone is allowed to express his or her point of view, working collaboratively and striving for consensus, respecting the majority vote of the board, celebrating the district's successes, maintaining perspective with a sense of humor, being responsive to emails and inquiries in a timely and respectful manner, and maintaining confidentiality. Thank you very much. That's our beginning. So our first item is public comment, and these are items which are not on the agenda. I ask you to try and keep your comments to 3 minutes, and anyone who has public comments not on the agenda, and our agenda is a governance report and the superintendent's search. Would you please come to the mic now? And start by please introducing who you are.
Hi there, Redwood High School. I was just interested in bringing to your attention today a board policy called BP 5113. I have a printout for you guys, but it's a pretty simple policy that states that students with 5 or more unexcused absences can have a loss of credit. And I was thinking about this in terms of when we came here last year, when we gave that presentation on the progress we've made on suspensions. And it really struck me how important it is to be using punitive punishments very sparingly, because whenever you use a punishment like that, you create space between the school district and the student. You kind of push them away. And there's other forces at play that can take advantage of that, like drug culture, etc., and which is why suspensions have been shown to increase delinquency, increase the chance and likelihood of going to jail as an adult. And I was looking at this policy, BP 5113, and I was just struck at how that doesn't go with our current idea of restorative justice and kind of bringing together people and making sure that our punishments are about restoring the bonds that have been damaged within the school instead of simple punishment. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that should be looked at. That if what we should be looking for is not something that acts like a suspension, that is just punitive, but something that continues to restore the bonds that have been hurt. And because obviously a policy like this that will take away the credit, this is going to be affecting our students with disabilities, our students of color, LGBT. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Roddy. What I'll do is I'll share your comments with Dr. Kimbrel when she gets back.
Hi, I'm Melanie Russell. I have 2 high schoolers in the district here, and I wanted to bring to the board's attention that in 2009, so I think that's 6 years ago, the 4 of our 5 high schools in the district were California Distinguished Schools. As of today, 1 is, and I'm assuming that that's an important designation. It was proudly displayed on the entrances of the various high schools in the district. So I just would like the board to address this apparent deterioration in the quality of our educational experience. And I think that that's an important matter. It's certainly important to parents, but I think it's also very important to property owners because property tax dollars are supporting the public schools. And when the perceived quality of our schools deteriorates, then I think it has a real domino effect in the community. So I would just like to know that the board is looking at that and addressing that and asking why that happened and what we can do to resolve that, especially with new members on the board. I hope they're taking an active interest in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I will check on that. I remember there was a discussion that the state of California had changed some procedures, but I'll follow up with you on that. Thanks.
My name is Emil Margolis, and I'm an organizer for Evolve. We are a San Francisco nonprofit that works to increase funding for public education, very much in line with some of the concerns that Melanie was raising. We are building a coalition of school boards and city councils statewide, revenue limit and basic aid alike. 103 so far, passing resolutions calling for reform of the commercial side only of Proposition 13. So I'm urging you to agendize our resolution for your next meeting of use some materials. Everyone in this room is probably already aware, but I will mention it anyway. Our schools are now second to last in the country in per pupil funding. Ever since Prop 13 passed 37 years ago, and we became the only state in the country that does not regularly reassess large commercial property, we have struggled to find ways to sustainably fund public education in California. And that is why we have ended up with the highest sales and income taxes in the country. New parcel taxes, bond measures, nearly every election cycle. So all of this still only gets us to second to last. While Disneyland continues to pay 5 cents a square foot on their property indefinitely. So I'm sure that there are many of you out here who are staunch supporters of the Redwood High School Foundation or any of the other foundations in the district. And I'm sure that you all, just like parents all around the state, who are repeatedly asked to give more and more every year, are ready for large corporations to finally pay their fair share as they do in every other state. So there are currently more K through 12 school districts in conservative San Diego County in our coalition that have joined with us in taking this stand. So we believe it's high time for Tam Unified to take this stand as well. 59% of likely voters statewide agree that Prop 13 reform is something that is essential. So I've given you the information. I look forward to being in touch and speaking about it more at length than this forum gives me time to. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments that are not on the agenda?
Should I
Oh.
have to go over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And anybody else who's going to speak, please line up in the middle so that I have an idea. Thank you very much.
Can we use the podium, so, because we can't get it on video from over here as well, so more people from the public can watch this? Can we go with that podium?
Okay.
If speakers
Sure.
would like to be on video? Thank you.
Sure. Later on, that may get to be a little more complicated, but okay. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Killingsworth. I've got a student in the district, and I'm here today to again point out how much academic performance has deteriorated in the district over the past 5 years, and urge the board to change its mindset in how it measures success. Board presentation and administration blogs point out how well the district has done over the past 5 years, with academic performance index or ATI rising in the district and pointing out that this is a real strength. What's disturbing to me is that these presentations compare the district to California national averages, which is really not a fair comparison given we're in one of the wealthiest districts with some of the best educated parents. What happens when you compare our schools with schools of similar demographic characteristics? The picture is bleak, showing an alarming deterioration over the past few years. If you go back to 2007, Tamalpais and Redwood's APIs were in the 8th decile. So somewhere between the 70th and 80th percentile. Not too bad, only 20 to 30% of similar schools performed better. What's happened to TAM since? They dropped to 6th for a couple of years after that, and now they're down to the 2nd decile. And they've been there since 2011. So now TAM has reached the point where only 10 to 20% of similar schools have worse performance. Likewise, Drake dropped from the 4th percentile down to the 2nd. Redwood remained relatively stable. So the presentations that we're seeing paint a rosy picture of success, yet 2 of the 3 main high schools in the district have actually moved from middle or top rankings down to the bottom when compared to similar schools. And I don't consider this a strength, and I don't consider it an accomplishment that we should be proud of. So I would urge the board to adopt better measures of success. Compare our schools relative to similar schools, not to the state average. And this has great bearing on the superintendent search as well. We can't afford a superintendent happy to maintain the status quo. First, we need the board to affirm that academic performance relative to peers is important at all schools. Then we need someone who is willing and able to reverse the downward trend.
Yeah, we will have, there will be an opportunity for public comment on the agenda items, and that would be a great time for that. It would really be helpful. Thank you very much.
I'm Kathleen Hyatt-Cutter. I'm a Redwood grad, actually, and I have 2 children in feeder schools. I'm here today because teachers have a good reason to feel afraid to come forward and speak publicly themselves at a school board meeting. I'm here as a parent to say what the teachers have been wanting to say to you all and have not felt safe to do. So, the scope of parent and student voice is more limited now than ever before, since hiring committees used to include parents and site committees had a broader role. Does the community know that our district has outsourced its hiring process to a private company, Target Success, at additional cost to the district and at the expense of excluding teachers in the selection process?
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Teachers are left out of the essential phases of the selection process, sometimes completely, yet their input is critical. Teachers across the district are saying that most of the newly hired teachers are not as competent in their subject matter areas as previously hired teachers, and the qualities being selected are more for compliance rather than excellence. Subject matter competency is no longer the top priority for hiring. This is eroding the core of the strength of this district, the quality of its teachers. Additionally, did you know that some new teachers have said that they were given promises of permanent jobs if they signed up to be in a project-based learning group? New programs are not being evaluated in a transparent way. Running a pilot program like the new tech one at Drake requires an honest and publicly shared measurement and assessment of all the aspects of a new program. This has been asked for publicly, repeatedly, but not delivered. No one should have to ask. A thorough PowerPoint report by Michael McDowell should have been on the school board agenda last year. We asked, why not? This avoidable failure of accountability is causing terrible divisions amongst the staff at Tam and Drake. The administration must be held accountable for the students and their families. And for the record, while I agree that emotions can run high even when parents get involved in the quality and delivery of their children's education, I think it's inappropriate to call such parents extremists. And you can look to number 4 here when it says welcoming a difference of opinion. So I'd like that to be on the record too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Avery Flasher-Busnash. I'm a graduate of the district. So I'm coming again today regarding the search for the new superintendent, and actually on many behalves, and I think we need someone who will serve.
Avery, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is for items that are not on the agenda. That is an agenda item, and we will have a time for that public comment to come.
All right.
So then we can get it all at the same time?
I'm gonna.
So
continue telling my story.
anything that
I'll
you-
ignore the superintendent then. I'll continue
Okay.
telling my story.
Thank you.
Okay, so your administrators and lawyers have taken many negative actions against me, my family, those around me that I have witnessed, as well as teachers. And my mission is to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I will proceed to name these things. I speak from experience for the community and the Friends of Tam District. Your lawyer, Lenore Silverman, publicly insulted me at an IEP meeting, calling me emotionally disturbed, making me depressed and not wanting to be at school with such a lawyer who would call me something like that. My dad mentioned at an earlier meeting that that's our taxpayer money that's paying for these lawyers that harass students at meetings and should not be running the meetings. Refusing classes, for me in high school has made it very hard for me in college. Your special ed administrators, Wes Cedros and Amir Mustafa, have taken out their persistence in refusing me classes by saying there was no room, and just trying so hard to not allow me to take those classes when I should have been able to, and it's discrimination. Banning me from the drama room is discrimination as well, from Wes Cedros and Assistant Principal Liz Chacon. It tore apart my relationships like none other, and I may just look like a kid, but I speak for all the students to make sure this does not happen again. And I say your administrators and lawyers have tried to tear me apart and ruin me. And they even played a manipulative game with me and my family when Assistant Principal Liz Chacon said that we could fill out a complaint against a specific drama teacher for not responding, when the administrators themselves had asked the drama teacher not to respond. And I don't know what kind of unproductive game this is that your administrators and lawyers are playing, but I later found out that she was told not to respond. And you're basically, by doing this, your administrators and lawyers are trying to pit innocent people against each other. And after I was threatened, after I was threatened by the district to receive a restraining order if I did not leave Tamalpais High School, it enabled a kid who had bullied me for 2 years to spit on me in his victory while I was walking to Safeway. I want to make sure that the community is safe from injustices like this. When I tried to recover, you scarred me again. Your administrators and lawyers scarred me again. I spent a year in treatment recovering, and your administrators and lawyers scarred me again. And therefore, I will make it my mission to come to these board meetings every time there is a meeting until all is exposed, all of the illegal actions from your administrators and lawyers. And I admit I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, but it doesn't mean you can rub it in people's faces and commit illegalities. Bigger problems to worry about is the bullying in this district and the problems that new tech is causing in your schools. I speak for the teachers, the Friends of Tam District, and the students. Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
Joe.
Thanks very much, Board President McCauley. I was here at last month's meeting, or a few weeks ago, and once again I went before Principal Seabury requesting that a survey be done of the new tech program in which my son is a part. And I requested that this be part of the site council agenda at Drake High School. And again, it was rejected. And I think it's sad. I laud the teachers for taking a risk and stepping up and trying a new program. This is an academic institution. What kind of academic institution does a trial and then, thank you, we already did that, and then hides from the results? If we're trying something new and we realize there's a risk and it's going to impact our children and our students, the first priority is not to protect the teachers or the reputation of the teachers or the program or the decision by the administrators. The obligation is to protect the students, to take care of the students first. There was an unofficial survey, as mentioned before. The results were very overwhelmingly negative. This board should accept that there is a problem with new tech, and before expanding it to 75% of the school, as Principal Seabury did, we should really look and say, what are the problems, the dissatisfactions? The ongoing problem with the IT situation at the school, which daily interrupts the interface to this program. I believe that it was unsound and unwise to have expanded so rapidly. Let's get honest, let's look at it. But also, just on a change of subject, please ask you, there have been some actions that have been taken by individuals within this district that possibly are not lawful and legal. Our legal counsel should not be used to protect an individual's decision or their spouses to do something wrong. It's one thing to use your lawyers to represent the interest of the district. It's another thing for you to be using our lawyers that we're paying for from our tax dollars to protect the wrongdoing of an individual associated with this district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am the mother of a sophomore at Redwood, and I believe that he's getting the best education possible.
Excuse me, can you just give me your name, please?
My name is Linda Kreitzman.
Thank you
I
very
have
much.
a sophomore, and I know that you'll never make everybody happy, but I'm concerned because having had my second child now at Redwood, I know that the education level is great, but I'm concerned when the environment, especially for the teachers, doesn't seem to be great. So with the departure of Laurie Kimbrel, I hope that something even before is going to be done, but that you're going to include in whatever decisions you make, whether it's new tech or whatever it is, that you include as many teachers. And I want the teachers who teach my son to be happy and to be in an environment where we really foster the discussion, but not perhaps even threats. And by the way, I'm not saying that this comes from my son's teachers nor anything. I've been in the district for a long time, and I'm very worried. We talk about the quality of education as a teacher myself. If you make it very difficult for me to teach at Haas, of course it's going to affect also my performance. So I want you to do something for the best of Redwood, and definitely the educators, the teachers themselves, and the administration should do something quickly.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is John Christie. I have one daughter who graduated from the district and two daughters currently in the district. I apologize if this is a little bit redundant. I'll try to edit it as I go along. I interact regularly with teachers at all of the campuses for a variety of reasons. One of the teachers asked me to speak on behalf of what they were feeling and some of their colleagues were feeling. They were basically a little concerned about repercussions. In this administration, the decision-making process has been restructured from top to bottom to include the voices of teachers and parents. This has been accomplished by the revision or elimination of systems which provided for authentic teacher input. assessment, participation, and planning. These have since been replaced with a top-down organization controlled by the district office. Teachers have lost the opportunity to evaluate administrators, which is limited accountability. Teachers who have been outspoken about program or policy decisions have been faced retaliatory repercussions from the administration, or their recommendations are dismissed. Opinions from longtime educators should carry a lot of weight when making recommendations for course placements, including when a student should be moved. The administrators have touted the, quote, student support plan document as being teacher-driven, but it is not. Classroom teachers nor teacher leaders wrote the document. And lastly, when a majority of math teachers agree the current plan is unworkable, someone should listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Benedetto Chico. I have 2 students at Redwood and a Redwood graduate, and then a younger daughter in one of the feeder schools. I'm going to talk briefly about 2 items. One is about, and I'm sorry that Ms. Kimbrel is not here tonight. After last board meeting, I was very impressed and happy about the new rules that Ms. McCauley presented. Was really, like many other parents, we said, okay, that's a good start under a new president of the trustee. And then I went home, and literally the same day, I believe, I read the interview that Ms. Kimbrel gave to the IJ. And as another parent just said, she called parents extremist parents who don't have the facts. And then she's saying that this is America. You got to get used to, it's okay to get angry. And if that makes few people angry, they can get angry. It's America. They don't have their facts on their side to back them up. So clearly, Ms. Kimbrel was very busy at the last board meeting, wondering about her new job because she didn't read what you suggested to all of us to follow when we had a discussion. And also considering how much money Ms. Kimbrel is spending on PR, I received from your attorneys, how much money you're spending, it's wasted money. She should really get, what the PR probably telling her. This is not the way to treat us. Sincerely, this happened before, and I understand why Ms. Kimbrel was hired by Bob Walter. Bob Walter clearly taught her that we are extremists. So parents, we don't have the facts. What exactly is about being extremist? If I want to know why we cancel, honors geometry at Redwood, what I'm going to do, to blow up Redwood because I don't like that? Is that what you define an extremist? So I really hope that the board will remind Ms. Kimbrel to respect us parents as you want us to abide by those suggestions. And finally, again, going back to what she said, America is a place, I'm an immigrant, so I can say that, where you are supposed to have different ideas without calling each other names. Secondly, going back to what other parents just said, I am very happy, extremely happy about the education of my kids at the Redwood. I'm really impressed. I'm impressed by the teachers, by their dedication. So I'm concerned when I see that instead of raising the bar for Redwood and maybe the other school that I cannot really talk about, I see signs of lowering the standards at Redwood. And even now as we speak, and I don't know if it's true or not, we have been told about changes at the math program at Redwood without the input of the teachers. I would like the board to consider that and see what's going on at Redwood about the elimination of some of the advanced classes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Could you talk a little, or just hold the mic down so I can hear it? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Fahey. I'm currently a senior at Redwood High School. I wanted to talk to you guys about representing students of Drake, and we are very dissatisfied with the fact that you guys just don't seem to listen. For the past we want to make sure that you guys are headed in the right direction. Over the past 2 years, fellow students and I have addressed the issue of cafeteria food. Many students have acknowledged that they would prefer a more sustainable and organic option in the cafeteria, but you guys have made no progress for change. In the past 2 years, we have addressed it. Me personally has addressed the issue, as well as other students in the past who have addressed the issue. I'm a member of student council. I have not attended any of the food meetings. I have been rejected from attending the food meetings. We, as a student body, we feel we have no voice. Another issue that I've brought to your attention is the fact that we don't use recycled paper at Drake. We used to use recycled paper. We switched to a non-recycled paper. I don't understand why that occurred in the first place. Just maybe to reduce costs, which is a very unreasonable reason. But yeah, I don't know. We want to have a voice in this and all of this, and we just don't feel like that's represented at all. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to move into trustee considerations, and our first item is governance report, and I would like to introduce Dr. Walt Buster. And I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce who you are and a little bit about how you ended up here tonight.
How did I end up here? I spent some time as your superintendent back in the 80s. Started out in Marin County in 1977 as principal of Brookside School, and then was superintendent in Fairfax, and then we merged with Ross Valley, became Ross Valley with San Anselmo. Went to San Rafael for a while, and then came to be your superintendent for 5 years, and then moved on to the Central Valley, and was a superintendent and taught at Fresno State. And my friend Mary Jane Burke, how do I work this? There we go. Back to that. Can you just go to the next slide? My friend Mary Jane Burke, who actually I hired as a special ed teacher at one time, asked that I volunteer to meet with individual trustees, to meet with all 5 of you, to help prepare for this important transition to your new leadership. Actually, for the last few years, I don't do it anymore, but for the last few years, I did do superintendent searches throughout the state. I did about 60. This is a standard practice that many districts use and is designed to assist you in making important decisions for the coming year. You really only have one employee, and that's the superintendent. There were some themes that emerged. One of them was that all 5 of you said you wanted to make sure that you recognize and appreciate Laurie Kimbrel for her past 7 years. You recognize that she had numerous accomplishments with student performance for all students in the district. And I know that from my days in Tamalpais district, I was always concerned about equity for all students. And the trustees will be seeking a leader who will continue this vision and build on the positive results. So some of the themes that evolved, the TAM board is engaged in positive efforts designed to meet the needs of all learners. I interviewed each board member for about 90 minutes, and the board recognizes and appreciates the support of an involved and supportive community, talented teaching staff, dedicated classified employees, and very creative district leadership. Again, this is not meant to be a prescriptive list. It may not be what you use if you hire a search firm or you do whatever process you use, but it does give you a place to start. And I did hear the word trust come up over and over again, and the word transparency come up. Thank you, Gene. All of you mentioned that you support realistic standards for students and best instructional practices. You heard tonight that people in the community also support that. You support strongly the current mission statement, and we're going to end up looking at that tonight. and that you intend to select the next superintendent using those qualities. If you do decide to use a search firm, that process for gathering input will be clearly defined. Just a word about search firms. If you decide to hire a search firm, one of the things that they want to do is have a broad-based interview of people in the community, students, teachers, classified employees, business leaders, parents. And they will ask, what are the qualities and characteristics you want in your next superintendent? So here's a starting list. Doesn't mean that's what will end up on your brochure or how you recruit. It's something that's very important for you to know. There is no stable of candidates. If you decide to go out and look for a superintendent, that person probably won't apply. They'll have to be recruited and know that this is the place to be superintendent. Just as a little sidebar, I love being a superintendent here. It's a wonderful place to work. And what you told me was that you wanted someone with a clear vision for your school district. You wanted a problem solver. You wanted an excellent communicator. And that's verbally, it's in writing, it's to the media, it's to students. But it was stressed that excellent communicator was very important. A word that I had over and over again along with trust was inclusive. Someone who could bring the community together and would spend a lot of time being a listener. We talked about strong interpersonal skills, the ability to be relaxed in groups, to meet with all of you individually, to know the community and be actively involved. But also, as we heard tonight about Prop 13 and other things, strong fiscal management skills was important. All of you talked about the ability to bring people along. Being an elected official with hiring a superintendent is a complicated process. And you want to make sure that there is strong community engagement to continue the work that Laurie's done. Following up on your norms, all of you talked about the ability to listen counterpoints of view. And in today's educational world, I don't care if you're in Fresno, where I was for a long time, or in Tamalpais, there are going to be people who have different points of view. Doesn't mean that those people don't have legitimate concerns and things that we have to listen to. But within that, let's find somebody who's also funny, and has a sense of humor, and enjoys coming to work every day, and can also mentor the younger administrators and teachers and encourage people to go into leadership internally. It was very important for all of you that you have someone who has experience in high school teaching and leading, someone who comes with a track record. And again, trustworthy and trusting with high self-esteem, the ability to build consensus. Some of these repeat, but they repeat because they were essential to the conversation. Actively engaged at the schools and the community. You want to see your superintendent at athletic events. You want to see superintendent at drama events. You want the superintendent to feel comfortable in walking in any classroom in the school district and observing good teaching, talking to principals, being actively engaged in the schools and the community. High degree of emotional intelligence, not to take things personally, to understand that it is a complicated role that involves working with people. And for that reason, have respect for employees' contributions and their talents. It's really important that whoever you bring in is a team builder with the 5 of you. That it means informal meetings with you, it means talking over coffee, it means listening to each of you individually. There are serious Brown Act concerns, so the superintendent has to understand that, but has to also know that he or she has to be a listener with 5 elected people. As mentioned before, building the strengths of the district, a leader who will focus on building positive relationships, and that means being candid, it means being open, and it means being transparent. And again, these aren't things that I wrote down, these are things that board members told me as the themes. The best indicator of future performance is past employment. So I would encourage all 5 of you, when you get ready to hire someone, go to that person's current district, talk to lots of people. When I was hired in Clovis, the board visited Tamalpais and Katati Roner Park. I talked to over 200 people to make sure that they still hired me. So an awareness of the importance and the skills with basic aid. And that came up with trustees. Basic aid is a complicated model. When I was here, I had to really struggle to understand the connection between enrollment and assessed valuation. And there are very few districts that have that. So the person who comes should understand California laws, California fiscal systems, and how to manage that complicated financial system. In addition, you have enrollment growth, which tying that in with basic aid is a complicated process, but someone has to have experience with facilities, staff, and classroom allocations. As you grow, if you have to ask staff to change classrooms or change sites, open and close rooms, build buildings, that requires leadership skills. So, what I did hear from all of you was stick to the mission statement, and I think it's a wonderful one, and it's one for all of us to affirm and listen to, that you're dedicated to the development of creative, passionate, and self-motivated learners. You want your graduates. When my son was a ninth grader at Drake, he asked me, how many years is high school? That probably wasn't a very good indicator. So upon graduation, students are prepared for engaged citizenship, contribute individually and collaboratively, because it is a dynamic and diverse world. Demonstrate mastery of core competency. We offer meaningful learning experiences, enable them to assess and critically analyze information and pose substantive questions, and communicate effectively. And that was adopted by you in 2009. So tonight, that gives you a start. That was a conversation with all 5 of you. One of the things I judge as an old superintendent is, and a person who's done searches, would I want this job? You bet. This is a wonderful place to be superintendent. It's got a strong track record. It's a place to be proud of. Both my children went through the system. Both became very successful. I know most of the people I know have moved on by now, but I know there are still people who are here. It's sad to see people who were my students 20 years ago, like Shizzy, who's now, she's not older, but I am. So.
A lot more than 20 years ago.
I know, it's pathetic, isn't it? You know?
Oh my God.
But my heart's in this. We want to build a strong Tamalpais High School district, go back to its roots. I appreciate all of your efforts, and I look forward to being behind the scenes helping you with this process. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. There's one thing that I would like, I mean, the board knows this, but I want to make sure that the public knows this, is that that's the first time that any of us have seen what Walt came through after talking to each of us individually. So this is the first time that we've all even seen this. So we'll be taking this home and digesting it a little. This came out of the day after the last board meeting where we accepted Dr. Kimbrel's resignation, which was the day after she announced it. I met with Mary Jane Burke going, oh wow, where do I start? And this was a recommendation that she made to me, that she's made to other districts within Marin, that we should think about as a way of just doing a check-in with the governance to create kind of a foundation from which we will all be working, to just kind of take a pulse and a check-in with every member of the board as we go down this future road. And she introduced me to Walt, and we had a conversation, and I talked to a couple of districts that had used him, and then I asked, because we needed to all agree that this was something we wanted to engage in, and it was 100% jumped in. And I have to also, right now that I've recognized Walt, who started this interviews a week ago. So within the last week, he's seen every one of us right up until I think it was Sunday night, Monday morning, and then he assimilated this and put just, I think, something to reflect for all of us to reflect on. But I really appreciate the work that he put into it and his willingness to just jump in, be flexible, and go with it. And I thank you very much. I think it is a great start for us to think about. So I'm going to now get to the, excuse me, I've lost on my thing. I lost my agenda on here. 1 second, please, thanks. Okay, so the next item is the superintendent search. And I'm going to start, this is the first step in the search. It is what is called an organizational meeting. In order to start, at our last meeting, a subcommittee, of two, which Laura Anderson and myself volunteered to be the information and fact-finding gatherers about a process. How does the process work? What does it look like? What are the steps that we need to do? And Laura will be reporting out very soon about what we found out. As I said, I met with Mary Jane. In addition to her suggestion about Walt, she provided me with a packet of information that, again, had lots of questions, things we should consider, things we should talk about from ground zero. And this is our beginning of that conversation. The procedures that I'm going to use tonight are slightly different. Normally, when we have an agenda trustee consideration item, we have one time in order to gain public comment. This evening, though, after doing a lot of thinking about it and trying to figure out how this would look, I decided to build in 3 opportunities for public comment. And so I'll be asking for public comment on very distinct areas of the discussion. And the reason for that is this is really the structure of this organizational meeting is a series of questions, which we will be discussing, we'll be addressing, we will establish a consensus on each question, and each question will then drive the next question. For instance, the answer to question number 1 will decide if we move on to question 2 or whether we all go home. And the same with number 3 and number 4. So it'll become, it may sound a little strange right now, but it'll become pretty clear as we go along. And I'm just going to make an example so that you kind of try and understand what I'm trying to say here. Laura will be doing a report on the research that we found and fact-finding about different boards that we talked to who are in the process of doing their search. They're slightly ahead of us, or they've done one recently. The set of questions that will be in this first category will be, should the board embark on a process of hiring a replacement for July 1st, 2015, or should the board consider an interim superintendent to start July of the next year and begin the search in the fall or the winter? So we're talking ground zero. That'll be the first. Then we'll move on to, once that question's answered, if we decide to hire a new superintendent, what are our options for finding that person? We do it ourselves or we get a search firm? Answer to that question, we move on to the next. So those are literally the 2 first questions in the first category that we will be discussing. So once Laura gives her report, I will take public comment on those areas of the search. Then we'll close public comment, we will have our discussion and make some decisions amongst ourselves, and that will decide where we move on to number 2. So I hope that's clearer. So I'm going to begin. Laura, if you'll begin. Oh yeah, we're sharing.
I have a very soft voice, so I need this microphone. So at the last meeting, and only Cindy and I have this information, so I'm just going to speak slowly and clearly here. We volunteered to do this fact-finding, this initial fact-finding, and the first step was to take a look at other school districts in Marin and a couple school districts that are outside of Marin that are high school districts, and see what they're doing as they look for a superintendent, what their process is. So we split the calls, and each of us talked to the board presidents at these respective school districts, and this is what we found. At Novato Unified School District, just north of us, they are undergoing a superintendent search right now. They are a unified school district, so it's K-12, a little different from us. They elected a subcommittee of 3. They are a 7-person school district, or school board, so they can have 3 people on their subcommittee and not violate the Brown Act. They decided to send 5 requests for proposals, RFPs, to search firms. This subcommittee of 3 in Nevada decided to send 5 RFPs, and that subcommittee narrowed down the firms to 3. So they started with 5, went down to 3, chose to interview 3 firms, and they hired leadership associates to help them with their superintendent search. I called Piedmont Unified School District in the East Bay. They are also K-12. They only have 1 high school. They have 1 comprehensive site like Redwood and Drake and Tam, and then they have an alternative high school site plus several K-8 schools. They have a board of 5, and they elected 2 trustees to be on their subcommittee. They sent out 6 RFPs to search firms, and they interviewed 3. No, sorry, they interviewed 4. So they only eliminated 1, and they decided to hire HYA, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. Okay, the 3rd district that we looked at was Reed, a K-8 district, one of Redwood's feeder schools. They have a subcommittee. They had a subcommittee of 2 trustees, and they sent out 6 RFPs and interviewed 2 firms. They hired leadership associates. They are in process right now looking for a superintendent. Ross Valley has a brand new superintendent. He was just hired. I don't know his exact hire date, but Ross Valley School District elected a subcommittee of 2 trustees. They're a 5-member board. They sent out 8 RFPs. They had the most, and they interviewed 3. They came up with Leadership Associates as their search firm, and they hired their superintendent. I also took a look at Mountain View Los Altos High School District. It's like Tam Union High School District, only high schools. They were very unique in that they did not have a subcommittee because they have been through several superintendent searches in the recent past and were very happy with their firm. So although they went through the process, it was unusual. They only sent out 1 RFP. They only had 1 interview, and surprisingly, they hired that 1 firm. It was Leadership Associates. But they are in the process of hiring that superintendent too. So the similarities that we found in this initial step were that all of these school districts elected to hire outside firms to conduct their superintendent searches. All but 1 had a subcommittee, and that 1 just went with, the firm that they'd used the previous 2 times. And that subcommittee was 2 or 3 trustees. And those trustees helped narrow down the RFPs the proposals that came back to anywhere between 2 and 4 finalists to interview. All of the people that we talked to, all of the board presidents that we talked to, despite that I was worried that we would be competing against them for superintendents, were very cooperative and supportive and knew all the right things to say. So that felt great. And all of these districts, the ones that have all but Ross Valley has their superintendent in place. The other 4 that we talked to are confident they'll find a superintendent by the summer. So that was that was phase one. Do you want me to keep going? Is that good? That lead into our?
Probably leads into this first section,
Okay.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the next one.
Yeah, we're sharing this.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much, Laura, for a good summary. So that tells you a little bit about, just gave us a picture of a process which other districts are using. So again, the first questions are where I would like the public comments to come at this point on the first area of questions, which, would you like me to repeat them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Should the board embark, this is what we will be discussing. Should the board embark on the process of hiring a replacement by July 1st of this year, or should the board consider an interim superintendent to start July 1 of 2016 and begin the search next fall/winter time? The second part would be if we do decide to hire a new superintendent at this time, there are two options. One would be that we ourselves, along with district staff, search for one, or we hire an outside search firm. So at this time, those are it. Those are the two questions that I'm taking public comment for. The next ones, if we decide, will be based on decisions. If we decide to do the search now, and I don't know that's going to happen, and then we decide we want a search firm, then we will have a second set of questions. But we need to get through the first questions first to know if we're going to have the second questions. So, is it a clarification question? Well, no, the comments please come up just like we do all public comments. I just ask for them to stay within that realm. And if you'll line up now, so I have some idea of how many comments to time around, I'd appreciate it. Makes my life and the meeting move a lot faster. And just like always, if you'd please just introduce who you are and make your comments. Thank you.
My name is Todd Samet. I'm a teacher at Redwood High School. And I have some comments to make on behalf of my colleagues at Redwood that pertain directly to this whole search, not so much to the specific question of an interim or not, although I could certainly weigh in on that. But I'm speaking on behalf of 64 teachers at Redwood on this matter. Teachers who have come forward after being afraid to come forward, and I have a very brief statement to read in that regard, and I think it's relevant right here. I hope you listen to it, even if it doesn't pertain directly to the superintendent. Okay? Okay. So I'm privileged to be representing this group of teachers at Redwood. I've been there a long time. It's a good school with good teachers, with very committed teachers. And after a long time, of a lot of squabbling, teachers felt they needed to really go on the record and say something with regards to the selection of the new superintendent. So we put together a statement, circulated around the school. I've been working, again, there for a long time. Getting a bunch of people at Redwood, teachers at Redwood, to agree on anything. It's a bit of a monumental task. It can be like herding cats. We shopped this we circulated this statement to all of the tenured teachers, none of the non-tenured teachers for fear of retaliation. And we spoke with 79 teachers, 64 of whom signed on to this document. 81% of the people we spoke with. It's strongly supported. And I just hope you would give it consideration. I'll tell you just a little bit about the people. We have a list of the signatories, along with their years of experience, the leadership roles they've had, as well as some awards that they have won. We total over 1,000 years of teaching experience. 7 of the 9 teacher leaders have signed on to this. The group of signatories includes, get these stats right, 4 PhDs, 2 college professors, 12 teachers of the year, 5 Golden Bell Award winners, and 6 nationally certified board teachers. It's a powerful group. Here's what we have to say. We, the undersigned, are a group of experienced faculty at Redwood High School. We have a total of 1,147 years in the teaching profession, and include amongst our ranks many educational innovators and leaders who choose to teach in this district because of its dedication to excellence. We also believe that much of the district's success is a direct result of the passion and creativity of its teachers. We believe that passionate teachers inspire passionate learners. As committed educators, we want to improve the learning for our students and are anxious to help solve problems in that pursuit. We need an administration willing to partner with us so that we can offer our experience and talents in that pursuit. Over the past 6 years, we have become increasingly concerned with the direction of our school district. We believe the current system is having a negative effect on the overall quality of instruction and student learning. The prevailing climate is one where professional experience is not valued, dissenting opinions are not tolerated, and staff morale is at an all-time low. In particular, the district's unwillingness to accept constructive feedback from staff has resulted in a series of program changes that are poorly conceived and unevenly implemented. We would like the school board to undertake serious consideration of these issues as you prepare to hire a new superintendent. The recent resignation of the current superintendent will not on its own solve the problems in the Tamalpais district. The selection of the superintendent, the next superintendent, will determine whether those problems are perpetuated or successfully addressed. We would advocate that the board put into place a transparent and inclusive selection process that includes real input from parents, students, teachers, and the community at large. That's our statement. 64 teachers. I have the list here for you. I'll turn the document over to you.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Hello, my name is Nejat Duzganesh. I'm Avery's dad, like last time. My comments, some of my comments might be more like a point of order, because I don't believe the board should do the selection process. I believe that a selection committee composed of teachers, students, parents, and maybe one representative administrator and one representative board member should do the selection. Secondly, I don't believe you should hire a search firm, because I believe they will only find professional superintendents, and we don't need a professional superintendent. We need real people who are teachers, who know how to teach, who know how to engage students, who haven't been in the administrative circuit, who are down in the trenches, so real people. So I don't want there to be a sort of a selective, privileged group of people being selected or searched for by a privileged search firm who will be getting a lot of money. I think the search should be done by the real people who are this district. And finally, I don't think you should have a temporary superintendent, because I'm afraid you will put in an assistant superintendent whom people don't trust. Yes. And finally, I should mention that because you've been so appreciative of Ms. Kimbrel, it seems like she may have done things that you appreciate at one time, but the community does not have trust in her. So if you trust her, that means the community doesn't trust you. So I'd like you to take those into consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm short. I'm Linda Lamb. I am a Mill Valley resident. My youngest child graduated last year from Tam High. And my thoughts revised after hearing our first speaker. So if I stumble a little bit, please bear with me. I wanted to question, it's really a question to all of you, on this comment part where you're deciding between an interim and a hiring directly, how you will go about that. And given the statement that I had heard, and you haven't given us any information, so I would like to hear that. And the statement, the first statement, where our teachers are very concerned about the continuity of staying the same and that they don't want that, makes me wonder if the interim is the right way to go. But if it is the right way to go, because it gives you more chance and time to find the right permanent person, that I would suggest that you consider the interim from an outside source. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Leslie Lundgren, and I too, like Linda, have kind of revised what I wanted to say after hearing the first speaker. I'm actually stunned, but then I'm not. You may recall last May I came to the meeting and I was pretty angry, and what I described to you was that just 2 weeks earlier somebody had told me that the teachers' morale was really low. And having lived here 28 years and having former children, I do it every time, not former children, they're children that were former students at Tam High, graduated in 2006 and 2007, that's what got me off my couch, so to speak, because the teachers are the teachers are who've made our district. The teachers are who I have thanked since my children graduated. When I hear them talk about their high school experience, when I see them grow, I remember their passion. The same math teachers I hear this board and certain members say that were horrible at TAM met my daughter at 7 a.m. with her friends to tutor her on their time. And the last few months I've tried to keep an open mind, and I've talked to teachers, I've talked to parents, and the community is clearly divided. But then I hear this teacher from Redwood, the school that supposedly has no problems, that supposedly every teacher's happy. So the reason why I'm shaking is I want to know, what are you going to do? Did you really listen? Did you hear? Or am I going to hear tomorrow that these are disgruntled teachers? Or am I going to hear that some parent must have written that for them and made him write that? What am I really going to hear you do? Are you going to be leaders? Are you going to try and bring the community together and listen to all the teachers? I'm not saying that I think we should only listen to the teachers that are concerned. I'm saying we listen to all of them. It's a public school. It's a diverse community. And maybe we all need to open our minds and think that the reality we thought we had is not really what's happening.
Thank you, Leslie.
My name is Skip Lovelady, and I teach at Redwood High School. Number one, my name is on Todd Samet's list, and I agree with the last speaker. If I were you, I would be asking, what's the percentage of Drake and Tam teachers who would have signed the same document? And you can search that out yourselves. And I suspect it would be the same or higher. And the reason I speak tonight is because I implore you to choose to elect an interim superintendent. Hopefully, for the reasons that you see tonight, that the district has a massive problem with respect to teacher morale, which equates to performance in the classroom. And that you choose an interim superintendent from outside the district to more or less ride the ship for a year while you and I, and those of us involved, the stakeholders, decide what's best as we go forward. Because I will tell you, there is no way, as wise as you may think you are, if your incentive is to fix this district and move on from the Laurie Kimbrel years, if that's your incentive, you cannot do this in the time frame that we're talking about. You need a full school year to do that. And so I say, if your incentive, and this is how you show this, if your incentive is to say, we want to move on from these past years, the last 6 years, and I will acknowledge, teacher morale is very low. And this applies to a lot of things in the classroom. But if you acknowledge that, then you need to understand that there has got to be more time than what you have between now and the beginning of the 2015-16 school year to elect another, to hire another superintendent. And in that context, that's where you would come forward and say, let us put forward a solution where we have an interim superintendent from the outside so that we can take a longer time to really fix these problems and address these problems and imagine who is our next superintendent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name's Joe Mackay. I'm a father of a child at Drake and one at Redwood. I would strongly encourage you to appoint an interim. Frankly speaking, we should be, the public should be afforded the opportunity to vote you, Board President Macaulay, and you, Board President Walter, out of office. This district spent an astonishing sum on a listening campaign. And when the results came back that you didn't like, you buried it. You didn't listen. You didn't listen to us. The person you picked here was awful. There's no sugarcoating this. Your letter in the IJ is one of the most disingenuous things I've ever read in my life in politics. We need to heal. We need somebody that can put this district back together. And Ms. Anderson, you're part of firing 3 good, perfectly qualified teachers going along with the agenda of this board. It's been a very disappointing era. We need to move beyond you. We need the opportunity to vote you out of office and to have people that represent the children, the parents, and the people of this district. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
I'm Linda Kreitzman. You have a unique opportunity to include parents, teachers, you heard them, quite a few of them here tonight, in the decision whether you should go with an interim or not. But let me tell you that a search firm costs quite a bit of money. I've been on search firms before for a dean, and you're going to pay approximately $100,000 just for a few months, and then more as they present more and more candidates to you. As a parent, again, I'm here to say that I do not think that you should make a decision on your own. I want to have parents included, myself if possible. I think it will be, it is your duty to do that, and also teachers before you decide what you want to do. So I hope that you're going to listen to this message.
Thank you.
I'm Benedetto Chico. I have again still likely two kids at Redwood, one graduated and one in the feeder school. After listening to the declaration by the teacher on behalf of so many teachers, I got to say, I told you so. I've been coming out here, at least for the last 3 years, telling you that the morale of the teachers was very low, that I could not walk to a Redwood campus without having a teacher slipping me a note, please keep the fight on, and complain. So now, finally, after having sent endless requests about the listening campaign, and the district having spent a lot of money in attorneys not to give me the results of the listening campaign, finally you have the results of the listening campaign from the teachers who spoke tonight. So I hope that even before going into the interim, the search, you stop and you listen to the other teachers in the other schools. And then you really know what's going on, and then you decide properly if, as some people suggest, I did at the other board meeting, an interim might be needed to heal the community or not. That's, either way, I believe is okay, but you got to know what's going on. Even I read the bylaws that were passed, I believe, by Kimbrel about how you can deal or not with the teachers, with the parents, with the students. they really isolated you from the community. You don't really know what's going on because we would not be at this point. Thank you. If you knew what was going on, you got to face reality. It's been a terrible choice. It's been a terrible agenda, and you got again to listen to the people. And in reference, so I would really like you to consider that. Do a real listening campaign. If the teachers are afraid, as they are, you know, we can borrow a confession stand from St. Patrick, so you don't know who's talking to you, and the teachers will go there, and they complain to you, but you got to listen to them. And because everything is about the teachers, everything is about the children. And whoever is going to be the new superintendent, he got to be in support of the teachers. He doesn't have to be, or she doesn't have to be, telling them what to do in the classroom every other moment. Thank you.
Okay, so that closes the public comment for this section. And so now I'll be bringing the discussion back up to the board. So, let's see, sorry. Let's knock that off. Okay, so the first question in the series is, should the board embark on a process of hiring a replacement by July 1st of this year, or should the board consider an interim superintendent to start July 1 of next year, beginning the search in the fall, winter time of next year? And so I'd like to hear from my fellow board members to start the discussion. Would you like to start, Bob? We're just going to go right down.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
I will be the last.
I've been on there's been three superintendents in my time on, not just this district, but on a school board. Whether we hire an interim, which we did with Bob Ferguson before, or we hire a permanent person, which we did with Laurie, in both cases, this is something that needs to be solicited. You don't just sort of go out and find somebody. So in both of those cases, as well as the one other in superintendent search I was involved in, we did need to hire a search firm in both cases. Now there was, although I did hear a figure of $100,000 thrown out.
We can tell. Well,
yeah, it wasn't. I was going to say whether
it's about 20,000.
You're right. I was going to say it was approximately 20,000 both when we hired a permanent and when we hired an interim. So there really isn't much cost difference there. They were within within a few dollars, but in both cases we did need someone. Now, the only way one avoids that is if you have an obvious candidate in-house, and we've already also heard people speaking strongly that they didn't want us to hire anybody that we already knew. So if it's not somebody we already know, we already have in the house that we can amongst ourselves figure out, and then I don't see any way around a search firm whether you go with.
Excuse me. We're asking for, this is our time, this is when we actually have our discussion, just as we listened respectfully, we would ask that also you listen respectfully. Thank you very much.
So all I'm saying is it's, in my mind, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another in terms of cost and in terms of process. Now, that leaves the question of which is the better solution for the district. On the one hand, one could say that getting to a place of stability as quickly as possible is ideal. On the other hand, you've heard people in the audience speak to the fact that they'd like the opportunity to try to reconstitute this board before a permanent superintendent is hired. So it seems to me that those are two different opinions. But to get to that point, I don't see that the steps are any different.
Okay.
I'm from Minnesota, and I just feel like I need to say oofda right now because it's a lot to process, and I don't mean to take any of this lightly. I was elected in November of 2013, and one of the most important job that a school board trustee has is to hire a superintendent and to evaluate the superintendent. So this is our job. We've been elected to do this. So I think in the past week, as I've been calling people and getting a little bit more comfortable with the process, I've never been involved in a superintendent search, but I feel much more comfortable about the process after having talked to other people who are going through it right now and to search firms. I have been assured that our timeline is attainable, that we have enough time to find somebody, or if I don't even know if we're going to go with a search firm, but we have 5 months between now and when we have no superintendent to figure out what we're going to do. I was glad to hear what Bob said. He's had more experience with this than I have. I think this is above my pay grade to find a replacement for our current superintendent. I do think we need professional assistance to go out and cast a net. Whether we end up finding someone to help us out in the interim, or someone to help us on a more, sign a contract on a more permanent basis. This is not something I think the 5 of us can do on our own. I do think we need help, and after talking to several neighboring districts and other districts like ourselves who have elected to hire outside help, I feel like that is the way we need to go. The question that is being bandied about tonight about the interim or not, I think that's I'm curious to hear what the other board members have to say. I'm still learning, but my gut is that we should do our darndest to go out and try to find somebody that fits after being as inclusive and listening with our best ears, which we do, that we figure out if we found somebody that can fit our needs, is a good match. If not, then maybe we go with an interim. That's the way I'm feeling.
Michael? Go around the circle.
So I just want to thank parents and teachers and other members of the community who've come today and come to other meetings to give your input. It's really important. It can be kind of isolating up here because we're really not allowed to speak with each other in any kind of consensus-building fashion outside of these meetings. And so it's important that you have a little patience for us and a little bit of understanding in the sort of stilted process with regard to the way we work. But your input is very much appreciated. And in particular, it's nice to see, I see the 2 teachers who spoke, both of whom had kids, my kids in their classes, and I see other teachers who also have my kids. So I appreciate and understand the importance of the role that teachers play in the development of kids in our school district. And I think, I hope that everybody had a chance to absorb a little bit what Walt Buster said in terms of there's clearly an understanding here that whatever process we go through and select, it needs to be an inclusive process. There's clearly a lot of problems with morale in this district. There's a sense that people don't feel like they've been listened to. That should be very obvious from the various statements that have been made. And so any process that we go through is certainly going to take that into account. And I hope that you, as a community, understand that we have assume goodwill on our part in terms of listening and taking all input into account. That said, it's the board's job. This is probably our most important job, which is to hire the superintendent. It's not a job that we're going to delegate. It's not a job that we can delegate. I would say that that's why we've been elected, except that I haven't been elected. But I was elected by your elected officials, and that's our job. So we're not going to delegate that job to anybody else. We are going to try to have a process, and we're trying to be good listeners. My father drilled that into me from a very young age, to be a really good listener. So that's what we're going to try to do. I think the particular question at hand about do we hire a superintendent now, embark on a process of hiring a superintendent now, or go for an interim? I don't think that's an easy. I've thought about this. I don't think it's an easy. I don't think that's an easy question. I listened to Mr. Lovelady pretty carefully about what he said, and I do agree there needs to be some time for healing. It's not clear to me, though, that an interim superintendent, who sort of by definition doesn't have a mandate, sort of presents the best opportunity for that. I'm not saying that it's not the right decision. It's just not clear to me. I've actually hired 2 superintendents when I was at Larkspur School Board. One who was effectively, and we had an interim superintendent. So I have been through this process, although not here. I guess what I would be thinking is that I think that we should. I don't think it's an either-or situation, right? And maybe that's what I heard kind of Laura saying, and maybe a little bit about what Bob was saying. Is that I think that we should do our darndest using an inclusive process to find the right candidate by July 1. But under no circumstances should we settle for someone who we think is not the right candidate. That's not to say that we're going to pick the perfect person. There is no perfect person, but I think that we want to try to pick the optimum and the best person we possibly can. But if we can't find that person, then we should have an interim solution. So I think that we can proceed. I think that we need to use, with Walt's help and with Mary Jane's help, and anybody else's help who wants to give it, I think that we should proceed along sort of 2 tracks, where we try to, we pursue, we try to hire the best person we can, we try to find that person, and if we can't find that person, then we are at least we are prepared to hire someone on an interim basis until we can find the best person. So.
Okay, Chuck?
Yeah, I've only been involved in one superintendent search, but I was also the recipient of a superintendent who had been, who was the product of a sort of broad-based, community-based process. That was a disaster. There is in no way, shape, or form am I willing to go ahead without using a search firm, period. I mean, it just, over my dead body. I think, we need, what?
Sounds like a good story for
okay. We need all the help we can. And I think, one part of the search aspect is that if we just posted the thing on whatever the administrative analog to EdJoin is, we would have a body of people who are looking for a job. And I think that we want people who, we want to find someone who is, settled and happy in their job, who's got a school district in a steady state where everybody is happy, and they want to move to Marin, they want to move to, actually I don't want anybody out of state, but, for the reasons that Walt brought up, there's just a lot to learn about California. But someone who is happy in their job, and someone who is in a job where everyone is happy with them, but may be presented with the opportunity of moving to a district which has high test scores, solid finances, the buildings are in great shape, they're not falling down, and there's still an opportunity for growth and improvement. Someone is going to be out there, but they're probably not going to be looking for a job right now. That's where a search firm comes in. What I would like to do is I have a question I want to direct to Walt Buster, and that is that when Walt came into the district, he followed Bob Spain, who was an interim, and Bob followed Tony Trujillo, who was a well, let's just say, if anyone thinks staff morale is low now, they don't remember Tony Trujillo. So the question I would direct to Walt is, did having an interim, did having Bob Spain make things easier for you? Or another way of putting it, was Bob necessary?
I was assistant superintendent in San Rafael and was recruited by the board. So I wasn't looking for a job and was recruited by the board, by a search firm. Bob was very helpful, but I was coming from Marin, where I'd been a principal and an assistant sup, and so I knew the county office and got tremendous support from, in those days, Virgil Hollis and Bob and all those people. So yes, it was, I don't know if the interim was helpful, the culture was helpful, but I knew what I was getting into, knew the community, wanted to be here. So yes, so Bob paved the way for me and made it comfortable for me. He made a nice transition.
Okay, that's helpful. So that's all. That's what
Okay.
I have to say.
Then I will give my opinions now. I gave this a lot. I really did think about this a lot, and my discussions with Mary Jane also have helped to shape how I'm feeling about this process. I really do, and also checking in with search firms. Every single one has reiterated that we have plenty of time, that we are in very good shape as far as the season is just beginning and they are just starting to look. So that, number one, made me feel better. The second thing is my conversation with Mary Jane, which reflects some of what I've heard from my fellow trustees, is that it doesn't seem like there's any reason not to go for it and try and find the right person, get all the input, really try to match up somebody that would be good for us moving forward. If come June, the slate that we're presented does not match what our community and what we're looking for, we can then do the interim and continue along that path. And Mary Jane has assured me that she will work with me. Very much what Michael just said. It was interesting. So that's kind of exactly what was in my thoughts, is that we would do a parallel. And as board president, I will work with Mary Jane to put us in a position that if we ended up June 1st and not the candidates brought to us and that we've interviewed and we're looking at each other going, the person's not here, that we will be in shape to then move by July 1st with an interim. And Mary Jane has assured me she will work with me, and that, again, gives me a very, makes me feel very confident that we would be in good shape. This district is in very solid district. We are very, I really feel like, and I know from talking, going to even statewide conferences, which we did in December, we are well known to be a very solid district, a very attractive district. We pay very well. We have extremely good staffs. We have very solid financials. We are kind of a dream district in a lot of ways. And yes, we have our challenges. Everybody has their challenges. But our challenges look awfully darn good compared to 80% of the state's public schools. So my bottom line here on the first question is I think we go for it. I want to have as much time to get input, to have the community involved, to get that middle ground between now, because I do believe in a search firm 100%. Let me just go out there right there. But between when we get a search firm and when we actually interview, I want as much time in that block so that we can get as many people involved and hear as much as we can and give a search firm as much time to really find us the perfect person. And then, as I say, I will commit right now to work with Mary Jane to have a backup track if at the end the 5 of us don't think that this is the right person, or that the right person is not sitting in front of us. We will have an interim, and that interim will be ready to go, and then we will seamlessly go in, and yes, next year we'll be back where we are. And the other thing that we found out with talking to search firms is it does cost about $20,000 to do the search. But if you do not, and various ones do different ways. Some of them, if you do not find the right person, they will keep on working for you. Other ones will charge you a somewhat of a fee additional, but it's very, very little. The initial is what they will have done the bulk of the work, and then it's moving on. So that's my feeling at this point. I'm going to go back and see if there's anybody, now that we've heard each other for the first time and had the discussion for the first time. Anybody want to continue?
I always want to add one thing, that when we hired Bob Ferguson, we didn't set out to find an interim. We set out to find a soup. And we didn't have anybody. But the process of going through that whole thing created a new pool of candidates. And actually, in Bob's case, when he first came up, he indicated he'd only wanted to work for a year or two. And consequently, we kind of put him on a short list. But when we didn't find a candidate that we thought would be there for a long time, we returned to the pool. So it just reinforces that it's not either or, that sometimes that process brings forward someone even in an interim position that you wouldn't have otherwise have known. But we were in the same position that we didn't set out to find an interim, but then the search firm, when we didn't find anyone, we said, let's go back again, and they didn't charge us anymore. But then they said, well, now we'll shift the criteria and look for an interim, and that's how it happened. So it's exactly what you suggested.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So is anybody, any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Amongst the board members before
yeah, I'd like to address directly what Skip had to say, and I agree absolutely that there's going to be an extended period. There has to be an extended period of healing. There's just a lot of bruised feelings here. I don't necessarily believe, though, that it will take an interim to do that. I think it's going to take longer than a year anyway. These things do to settle out like this. If we find the right person, that process can begin with a permanent and not necessarily have to begin with an interim. But I do, I absolutely believe that there does need to be a healing period. And I would, with a little cherry picking here, but this list of qualities and characteristics that Walt Buster drew up, talking to all 5 of the board members, just to cherry pick a little bit. Excellent communicator, inclusive, collaborative leader, a listener, strong interpersonal skills, ability to bring people along, open to listening to counterpoints of view. These are the qualities that are necessary to help heal, some of the wounds that have come to pass over these past several years.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Any other comments that anybody wants to call up now that we've heard everyone?
I just wanted to say that I like listening to you, Cindy, talking about working with Mary Jane as we embark on this process in case we don't find that perfect match. I think that list of qualities that Walt came up with, I was thinking, how are we going to find somebody that has all of those bullet points? It's a pretty tall order. But after listening to what everyone has said tonight, and we have gotten emails, people that were not able to make this evening, have made it clear that they want to be included in this process. And we hear that, and if we go with the search firm, which it sounds like we all, over Chuck's dead body, we're going to go search firm, that is a very important component of whomever we choose. That firm knows that we highly value input from all of our stakeholders, our teachers, our parents, our students, and the vast majority of the district who don't even have kids in the district. We want to hear from everybody because these are your schools. So I think, I feel comfortable if we can find a firm that is really clear that we have people in this community who really care about this, what we're doing, then, I'm comfortable with the firm. And if we end up not finding that person that has all those bullet points, that we go with an interim, if that's what we need to do.
Okay, so I think we've had a chance to all give our feedback, so I'm going to take the vote. So the first is, should the board embark on the process to hire a replacement by this July 2015? So I'll ask for a vote of how many are in favor of that. I'm just going to ask for a hand vote. Okay, well that answers a lot of questions. That's number 2. So we will embark on a process for trying to hire a superintendent and by July 1st of this coming year. And again, I will reiterate, I'm making a commitment to work with Mary Jane to have the parallel going on just in case. The second question is whether to use the search firm, and it sounds pretty unanimous that we love Chuck too much to lose him, but it sounds like every single person, it is the right thing to do. We are a world-class school district. We need to have somebody who's out there headhunting, and as Walt Buster put it, the person who we're looking for probably doesn't even know they're looking for a job right now. And we're going to hire a search firm that will find them, and I think we're an attractive place to move to. So so that brings us down to, that's question 1 and 2. We now decided to get a search firm, so now is our next section. I'm going to have Laura, we did go ahead, Mary Jane had provided us some information with search firms just in case we got to this point. And so for efficiency reasons, Laura and I did some fact finding on them also, and I'll let her talk to you about that.
Okay, this will be quick. So Mary Jane Burke gave us a list of 10 search firms, and Cindy and I split that list and called the firms to make sure that they were still in the business of hunting for high school superintendents, to verify their contact information, and to ask them about the request for proposal, the RFP process, and what their turnaround time was, what their requirements were. And this is what we found. Of that initial list of 10 that we received from Mary Jane Burke, only 6 are actually in the high school superintendent search process. All 6 of those assured us that they can turn around an RFP in 2 to 3 business days, which shocked me. I don't know if that shocks you, but if we send out a request for proposal via email tomorrow to any of these 6 firms, they assured us that we would get a full proposal back via email in 2 to 3 business days, followed by hard copies. And all of the firms that we talked to, as Cindy mentioned, assured us that our timeline is very attainable for a July 1st hire. So, but you should all hear that as well. The 6 firms that are in the high school superintendent search business are, and this is in alphabetical order, no preference here. The Costa Group out of Fairfield, California, Dave Long and Associates in Laguna Beach, Hazard Young Attea and Associates in Rosemont, Illinois, Leadership Associates is in La Quinta, California. McPherson and Jacobson in Omaha, Nebraska. And McPherson happens to be the California School Boards Association's executive search partner. And then the sixth and final firm is Ray and Associates in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So those are the 6 firms. We eliminated 4, and these 6, I think we should consider setting RFPs out too. That's all I have.
Great. So at this point, I will take the second set of public comments having to do with the search firm process. And so if you have some comments to make about the search firm process, please come over to the side. Hi, David.
Hi, I'm Chris Earl, and I'm a Redwood graduate, a current parent of kids in the feeder district, a teacher, and a homeowner in Marin. Laurie Kimbrel, I assume, was recruited by a search agency such as we're about to hire. I think it's pretty clear that the opinions of whether she is a good candidate for another school district are divided. That the board has an impression of her that's quite good, and there's a number of members of the community that don't have as good an impression. So I would just ask the board to consider if a search agency found her and hired her to this other school district, thinking that she was a great hire for them, that we consider what information we're getting, especially from the community, about our search candidates.
Hello, I'm Avery Fajr-Dinesh, going again. I just wanted to point out that there's a difference between listening and active listening. Because I think that, as Chris just pointed out, thank you, I think that, that it's obvious that if Laurie Kimbrel was recruited, that the board has done this, and that it's not the community's interest that's really being listened to. And I appreciate Michael Futterman for addressing the community and that the comments was made, because, but I really want the next step forward, because your administrators robbed me of my education, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to other students. And I want really a transparent administration, and a superintendent that will train their administrators not to do illegal things, such as have been done to me and other people that I've witnessed. And the firing of the 3 math teachers at Tam has, shall I say, shown the community the true nature of this board and administration. And I think that, look, if you're not gonna, hire a proper superintendent, I don't think that you'll be reelected. That's just my honest opinion. I don't think that that's going to happen if the community sees you as not listening to them. Maybe you're listening politely, and I appreciate that, because we've listened politely to you. You listen politely to us. That's good reciprocation. But I think that active listening and taking the next step forward is something that's important if you want to be reelected, because there's a certain fine line between the two, and I think it's important that you distinguish that. And I appreciate it when the community is addressed, but I just don't think that this search firm that you're doing, I'm not sure if it's going to get the right person. I mean, and if you are doing a search firm, I would alert them of the discrepancies that went on during Kimbrel's time as an administrator. And I would advise you to truly listen to what all these wonderful people have to say, because it's really moved me, and I think that I just think that you should, as community members yourselves, listen truly to what these people have to say, because I agree wholeheartedly with every word of what the parents and the teachers have had to say, because it's just what makes up our schools. Like you said, Cindy McCauley, this is a dream district, And that is made up of the parents, the students, and the teachers, not the administration. I'll admit some administrators were very good. I don't know if they're here, but I really appreciate David Sondheim and Chad Stewart for being supportive of me. But other than them, I can't really name many administrators that were very supportive. So I just wanted to point that out. And I know my time's up, so I just advise you to listen to the community.
Thank you, Avery. Short little lamb again. I heard the 6 firms listed, and one in particular caught my ear, and that is Hazard Young Attea. And I'm going to highly suggest that you do not engage them. My reason is that I believe that is the search firm that not only got Laurie Kimbrel her Chicago job, but also brought her here. In addition, a simple Google search when she resigned that I did was Laurie Kimbrel resume, brought up a resume that lists on her experience from 2014 to present as an associate at Hazard Young Attea and Associates. They're not listed on their website. She's not listed as an associate on it. But given all that, I'm going to suggest that you do not include them in your search. Thank you.
Thank you, Allegra.
I'm Melanie Russell, the parent of 2 students at Tam High. I feel very strongly it would be an egregious lapse of your governance duties to consider a firm that hired a superintendent that supposedly was working for them at the same time she was working for her own district, and evidently did not do their due diligence, because the accolades in the local Chicago press make no seem completely foreign compared to what we have heard in this forum over the last year. So I would just say I don't think that Hazard Young Attea, thank you, is qualified or has demonstrated due diligence, and in my opinion really has not demonstrated ethical behavior either. And I would be shocked if this board selected them as your representative to guide you through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie?
Hi there, Robbie Pelson. I just sort of want to reiterate what Avery said, and great to have you. We should start a caucus. I was, one thing I wanted, when we're talking about firms, language is something that's very important. I was on and especially for student involvement, I was on a site visit the other day. I'm on the mental health board, and at the Marin County Youth Court. And it's very interesting. We were just observing the proceedings there. There's a restorative justice program that takes place there every Thursday. I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested. A very good program that unfortunately our district has not taken up yet, which I hope will change. But as I was sitting outside, they bring in all of the kids who are using the service, and all the kids were coming in, and I'm just standing back, and they all entered. But as they close the door, the woman who's beckoning them all in looks at me. She sees I'm young. She says, "Hey, get in there. All the kids need to be over there." I'm not a client. I said, "No, this isn't my program. I'm 18. She says, "That doesn't make you an adult now, does it?" Oh, pretty rude, huh? You know, and I'm here trying to represent the county and get interest. But there was a point that was like language. And if we do a search form, it's essential that there's student involvement, and it's essential that the firm you hire really has good consideration and is mindful of who they're talking to, is respectful to people of all ages, doesn't put things under the rug. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Robbie, for keeping us on track all the time. Love it.
Hi, I'm Leslie Lundgren again, and I guess your question was comments about the process. And the RFP process, I know, is pretty standard. I agree 3 days seems fairly quick. But the part that I haven't heard from you is what is your criteria for evaluating the PR, I started to say PR firms, but the outreach firms or the headhunter firm.
Yeah, that will actually be the third section, is what are the qualities would we like to see in the search firm, and that, and I will be taking
so that's my main comment.
I'll be taking public comment.
That's the critical component, and you've got to do that before you send out the RFP.
I hope you can stick around and give us some suggestions. Thank you.
I just wanted to explain really briefly how the process goes with the search firms. What they do when they look for, whether it's for an assistant dean or principal or superintendent, the process is the same. They have extensive email addresses, and they're going to send it to all of the schools around the country, so it allows you to have quite a few applications. But what I wanted to say is that before you make this decision, well, I guess you made that decision, it would still be appropriate, I believe, to seek again feedback from the teachers and parents as well. We have experience and we want to work with you. Sometimes we come and maybe we bark a little bit, but that's only because we are very, very concerned and we want to build something with you, and we have a unique opportunity. Let's forget about everybody and everything. And that's not actually, I don't want to say negative things about the person who's leaving. I simply want to say, let's take the opportunity to build something together. So listen to us. We have experience. We want to work with you. And Laura, you said something, with all the qualities of a principal, that's a tall order. I don't know if we can find somebody. We need to find somebody with all these qualities. It's expected, for that person. So let's take our time. And someone, teacher said, maybe it's interim. Let's work with both. Let's think of, maybe in the interim, if we don't find somebody, yes, maybe you'll have an interim person. But also, there's a word poaching. If you know that somewhere out there, there's someone who is very successful, who has a very strong record, why not reach out to that person and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you. We have this position that is open. Search firms don't do that. Not always, but you want, one way to look at search firms and evaluate them is look at their track records. Who they help place. And by the way, Bob, the search firms in general, they take 30% of a first year's salary. So perhaps working with schools, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's different.
So but I don't think it's going to be just 20,000. Actually, I have somebody whom I know very well, works with Mary Jane Burke, and one costs $35,000. So I want to revise my numbers. Thank you.
Okay. So that ends public comment for this section of the agenda. And so there's some steps now that we've decided to go with a search firm. There's some steps that we need to make some decisions on how we're going to go about that process. As Laura reported, the first step is to send out our request for proposals, and we will send them out tomorrow morning, both electronically and hard copy. We have a list of solid firms, and so that would be our first step. We get those proposals back, and we'll be looking at a timeline in a few minutes. But first, those go out, they come back. There needs to be a paper screening review of those to reduce it down to whatever number of interviews that we feel is a reasonable number. And those are all the questions that I would like to hear from everyone, how you feel about. Laura had described a process that other districts have used, every other district actually that we talked to, of a 2-board committee to redo the paper screening of these vendors. So we put out whether 5 or 6 RFPs, and these are really a lot of, they're basically a canned kind of, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we do them. To a certain extent, they've got a lot of, I've seen one, the sample that Mary Jane had, they have references and all that kind of thing. But they will tweak it slightly, but not a lot. They're not going to put a lot of time into it at this point until they are chosen to be in an interview. Those last 3 are that's when they will put their time in to try and get us. So one of the things I'd like us to consider is putting together an ad hoc committee of 2 members. I will right off the bat tell you I am not going to be on this committee. I will be the point person throughout this whole process, and so I am going to have more than enough time with whoever it ends up being, and I think that all of the firms that will be brought forward, I trust any 2 members of this board implicitly to weed through 5 or 6 vendors and come up with 3 that they feel would be good for us. So I'm going to put that out there right now. So that we need to decide, are we going to send it to all 6 vendors? How do the rest of you feel about a 2-member board to do the review and come up with the 3 interview people? And then let's do that first. And then I did put a little bit of a couple of suggestions for a timeline to make this happen efficiently. And the reason I'm looking for this to be efficiently done is because from the time we hire a search firm till when we do interviews, I want to have absolutely as many days and weeks as we can possibly have. Number 1, to get the search firm out there quickly and looking, and number 2, allow all of our community members, every single one of them, whether they're in the schools, outside of the schools, to have some input and enough time to do that. So I've got a pretty aggressive timeline, but we can do that later. So my first 2 are, should we send it to all 5 or 6? And what do we think about, more importantly, I'd like to hear what other members feel about the process of using an ad hoc group of 2.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
So, did I understand you correctly? Because you're talking about sending out an RFP tomorrow.
Yes. I have a sample one that Mary Jane gave me.
The RFP itself is a fairly form document,
Yes.
right? So the RFP is not articulating all these qualities that we want to see, right? Okay.
No. This is really the process for how they work, how a search firm, and they are very different.
So this question about that Leslie raised about what are the criteria we want to see in a search firm?
Right.
Right. So at what point during the process?
That would be my next, if we decided, yes, we do want 2 people, or if we go to a 3rd person committee, the only difference is you'd have to 24-hour notice the meeting every single time you got together to talk.
No, I'm sorry, that wasn't my question.
Yeah, okay. So once we decide that, the qualities was going to be my next item, and it was going to be a public comment and then a discussion amongst us what the qualities that we would be looking for in a search firm that would help guide this committee towards making a decision from the 5 or 6 to 3.
So here's my next question. We keep referring to Mary Jane. We have distinguished Walt Buster here in the audience with us, right?
That's true.
Walt's not finished tonight, is he? Right? We can continue. We can not.
Well, can we keep talking to
These are pearls. These are absolute pearls you've given us, right? But we can continue to use him as a resource.
Yes, we can.
Throughout this process, right?
Yes, we can.
I know where you live.
We're very lucky Walt lives within our district.
Okay, so then I guess you're looking to see, do we think forming a subcommittee of 2 people is a good idea?
Yes.
I think it's a logical next step, yes.
Okay. How does anybody else, or anybody want to comment?
I nominate Chuck to serve as on one of those seats.
I'd be happy to.
Well, I'm also looking for volunteers, by the way.
I will do it. I won't do both. I can't clone myself.
No, you can't clone yourself. So so it
My
sounds
son
like you
could
feel
probably
like
clone me, but
so you feel like it's a good idea to do a subcommittee. Does anybody have a problem with a subcommittee to be doing the paper?
The subcommittee is just going to be reviewing the proposals and coming up with the group to interview?
Yes,
the finalists.
The 3 that will be interviewed, yes. So does that sound like that works?
Yeah.
Looks like a consensus that it works for everyone? Okay, then I'll be looking for, other than Chuck, I need 1 more volunteer from the 3 of you who'd be willing to go through this paper information and come up with the 3 firms.
I'll do it with you, Chuck. So we're on this board together till 2017. This will be our first chance to work together on a subcommittee.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we have our subcommittee, so that, thank you both very much. I know I appreciate it, and like I said, I trust all four of you. It makes no difference to me. So what I had said is I did put together, and I'm going to pass it out because I think it helps me to just, this is like the beginning of a timeline for being able to choose these firms, because it takes a couple of different dates that we need to confirm with each other.
Before we go on to the timeline, I'd like to kind of observe.
Oh, go ahead.
So one of the questions that Michael essentially asked, and that is, if there are particular things that need to go into this RFP, and I had 3 very specific things that I think should be asked in the RFP to get back something other than just pro forma suggestions. And anyone can modify these, but these are issues that have come up in the past. One of them was actually sounded here obliquely. I think that it's important that we ask each of these people if they have associates in their firm who are or have been affiliated with the Tamalpais Union High School District and who they might be. That's number 1. Number 2, I think it's important that we ask what other districts they have had as clients with whom they have worked, because that will be part of our due diligence to discuss with those districts what their experience was working with each of them. And then finally, although Chuck said, you know, he wanted to make sure that someone came from California, that may or may not be my opinion. And certain of the firms only recruit from certain areas, and others recruit from other areas. So what areas do you recruit from?
I think that's more of the conversation will be the next section.
I think you put this right up front in your RFP. I think you ask these questions.
Like, do you recruit from outside of the district?
Where do you recruit from?
Where do you recruit from? Okay.
And I think that these are questions that will give you a sense of who the different firms are and, you know, and how they operate. I think without these questions, you're going to get back a pretty standard. And yes, you'll whittle it down, but if you want to move this forward on this aggressive time frame, then these are questions I think you need to know up front.
So before we get to the interviews.
When you analyze the RFPs.
Okay.
If you see a firm that says we're going to, you know, and I have no opinion one way or the other, but oh yes, one firm may come to you and say, oh yes, we have so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so who've been affiliated with the Tam district, therefore we're going to do a great job. Well, that may not be what we want. Or they may say we have nobody affiliated with the Tam district. Either way, you know, they may say we've worked with this district and this district and this district, and none of them that they hold forth really do we feel are similar enough to ours to really take a chance. And similarly, if they say, well, we only recruit from California, or we only recruit from California and Nevada, that might be something that could be material.
Okay. Well, look, we can, that is the last question, because I want to know, get feedback on the RFP that I've already drafted in a draft form, and we can add that on if we all, no, that's fine. No, I'm, oh, no,
Cindy,
we're going.
Sorry, are you through, Bob? I didn't want
I'm
to.
done. I'm done.
So, what about this question that's been raised about, we have a pool here of 6.
Right.
There seems to be, because of some comments made, concern about 5 versus 6. Is that something that we're going to discuss tonight?
If we want to, that definitely, I mean, tomorrow, we have to, I would like us to decide it tonight, because I would like to get them mailed out tomorrow morning.
Is this a good time to talk about
Go for it.
Yeah, so, I mean, the concerns have been raised about this. So I was just taking notes, Laura, from when you were talking, so you know that I was trying to be an active listener with respect to you.
I appreciate that.
So you meant, I think, of the school districts that you mentioned, you said one most recently did not, no, I guess you said all but one hired leadership associates, and one hired HYA, which is the Hazard Young Attea and Associates, which is the firm that there's been some questions about. I don't have any experience with any of these folks, but what I understood was that there are questions about, are they the right firm? If there's some integrity issues, those maybe, but I just didn't understand exactly what those are. I'm not willing to just rely on a Google search. There may be other information.
But my thinking is, we send out RFPs to the entire pool, and then we look into those issues, and if those issues with respect to HY, and there may be other issues in some of these other firms as well, but I mean, we have a flag for them, and if it turns out that we have a concern because, for whatever reason, then we would take that into account in not selecting them. But I think it doesn't cost us anything to send out an RFP and again, RFP. I don't think I know enough now. I think we've been doing ourselves a disservice. I don't know enough now to say, let's not even talk to them. Even though ultimately we may decide the points made
not to
tonight.
interview.
Yeah, even though the points made, we may decide the points made tonight were right. We have better candidates, but I think we should at least let them. I mean, they're in the game. Let's let them. We may learn something as part of their RFP, frankly.
So I guess I'm going to say, is anybody here who doesn't think that we should send to all, is it 6?
It's 6, and I agree with you, Michael. I think it's such a small group. It's 6, and they do national searches. You know, they're going to be ties. We're going to find.
Yeah. But I think the points were definitely worth considering that came up.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I think, so we've got our committee where we are going to send them to all. Like I said, I put a pretty aggressive timeline together. And they, as you can see, tomorrow would be the mailing out of the RFPs. The question is a reasonable amount to get them back. It's either Friday, February 6th, or the 9th, which is a Monday. And the reason, as Laura said, when she made all the phone calls, that they came back, that we would have an electronic version in literally 4 days at the very most, and the papers would be coming really quickly after that. So do we feel 1 week, it would be basically 8 days, 6 working days, or do we want to go till Monday the 9th?
Can I hear from Walt? Do you think that
one's fine? They can do it quickly?
You think the shorter time period is doable? It's not an unreasonable request.
So part of it, I thought, one of the reasons that Laura and I, when we made this timeline draft up, was that the 6th is on a Friday, which gives whoever's on the committee the weekend to review it in addition to work days. So otherwise they're all during the week. So I don't know if that makes any difference to this committee of 2. That's kind of between the two of you.
Chuck, are you going to the?
Makes a big difference to me.
Okay.
Are you going to the Masters in Governance training on the 6th and 7th? That's.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be in school.
Yeah, but
we'll have, if we have.
You can still get them electronic. But you don't have to.
Electronically.
Yeah, you'll get it electronically.
Yeah, but we're going to be learning about HR and finance for 2 days. But we'll have the rest of the weekend to fully immerse ourselves in district business.
I don't want to get it on Monday and have to be at a board meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, you won't have to do anything by Tuesday. Tuesday, I just put that in there just so you know there's a board meeting coming. But I understand what you're saying. Because then the idea is that you would contact the 3 finalists by the 13th, which is Friday the 13th. Because then we have winter break. That gives the search firm that entire week while we're in winter break, because we're obviously not going to do the interviews while everybody's out of town. So our interviews would then, I'm proposing them to be on February 24th, which is a Tuesday. It could also be the 25th. I need people to look at their calendars.
In the evening.
Yes. And they'd be in the evening so that we could get community input again. It is a totally open process. So Tuesday is the 24th. I just started it Tuesday because Monday I didn't think was a good idea coming back off the week off. So I'd say 24th, 25th, 26th.
I have a problem on the 24th is better.
Okay, does anybody else have conflicts any of those 3 days? Because I got mine open. Chuck?
I'm good.
Okay, so do we want to make it the 24th? Okay.
We're talking about
February 24th. Oops, okay. Are you still good? Okay. February 24th at 7 p.m. Then, Jeannie, we're going to set a board meeting. We will it'll be at 7 p.m. We will be interviewing 3 firms, and more details to come.
We'll be interviewing as many firms as the subcommittee recommends.
Okay, we could do that too. That's true. That's true. I just made an assumption, didn't I? I'm very sorry. Thank you for keeping me on track here. Okay, so that will be February 24th at 7 p.m. So the other thing then, Bob already started. This is a draft of the superintendent search RFP. It is very, very, very basic. It's based on the one that Mary Jane gave me. I could read it. Do people want to hear it? Or you just trust it's very, very, very basic?
Can you just maybe
Yeah.
bullet point it?
The Tamalpais Union High School District is requesting a proposal from your firm to do a search for a superintendent. Our district serves the communities of southern Marin County in Northern California with 5 schools and approximately 4,000 students. Information about our district can be found online at www. The deadline for proposals is, and we will fill in the dates now that we have it. After reviewing the proposals submitted, we will select, I was going to put a number of firms, but we can keep that open. We will select firms to be interviewed in a formal interview process. Tentatively, we plan to conduct interviews on our meeting, February 24th, and make the selection conditional on reference checking and upon reaching a mutually acceptable agreement. Our intent is to complete our entire recruitment and selection process of a new superintendent by June 1st, 2015. Your proposal should include a full description of your services, fees, a list of references, and a proposed timeline. We are requesting that you mail X number, and that was one of my questions. Does everybody want a hard copy, or just, I was going to have one set in the district office for any community members that would like to come in and look at them. One for each of you. Does anyone else on the board feel they want these initial ones? No. Okay, so that will be 3. Hard copies of the proposal to be mailed to the district office. In addition, an electronic copy, if available, will be sent to our administrative clerk, Jeannie Shaw, at jshaw@district.org. Your proposal should be submitted to, and it's being mailed to me. And Jeannie, we'll double check the address on this to make sure it's good. Thank you in advance for your timely response, and I'm giving them my cell phone in case they have any questions to keep this all moving forward.
So can I give you a couple of...
You can absolutely
feedback
edit
on
away.
this? So starting at the end, an electronic copy if available. We should demand an electronic copy.
Okay.
In this day and age, that's kind of silly, I think. And especially with the concerns expressed by Drake students about
Absolutely.
Paper, recycled paper.
That's true. Very good.
Take that back. All right. So what about, this says we want to complete, ideally we complete the selection process by June 1st. Should we say something with an anticipated start date of,
okay.
of August 1, right? Or July 1, July 1, I'm sorry, at the beginning of our fiscal year. So also it says our district serves the community of Southern Marin. I mean, I think we serve Southern and Central Marin, not just Southern Marin, but you know, it depends on, it's a kind of a fluid boundary.
You read communities, wrote the community.
Serves the communities. Yeah,
I always consider Central to be San Rafael, I guess, so, okay.
Southern and Central.
Southern and Central.
Nicasio is not southern.
Yeah. Okay, so how would we like to describe ourselves?
Serves the lovely bucolic communities of Southern.
There's our humor coming in. Okay, I need words. I picked Southern Marin because I figured...
No, I would just say Southern and Central Marin if you want to do that.
Okay.
Serves communities in Southern and Central Marin. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
So I would also, I mean, I think we ought to, have you
And
seen
then
this?
we want...
Yeah, I would be happy to delegate you know, when we're done with this, I'd be happy to delegate authority to you to make the final decision. I'd like to run it by Walt.
Okay, I'll run it by you, Walt. Okay, great. And then Bob had made some suggestions to add.
You picked up references, so that would be.
Yeah, my only concern about it is that we're putting a pretty tight timeline on them.
I don't think it's difficult to ask them, firm associates who have been associated
With our district?
Right.
Okay.
Nor do I think it's asking them to say something, the geographic scope of your search.
Okay.
It's probably on their websites too.
They have all that.
They have all that in there? Okay. Well, I'll figure out a way to put those in, and I will double check with Walt before I leave, so.
Cindy, again, just a slight suggestion.
Uh-huh.
It might just be useful to just bullet point the items you want to be covered.
Okay.
Can you also add confirmation of receipt?
Oh, yeah.
So that.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
had talked about that. Laura had pointed out it'd be nice to have them confirm that they received this RFP. Thank you. Anything else?
So I just have, again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but, you know, there have been questions that were, I guess, about what kind of qualities we're looking for in search firms. So,
my next one.
but I don't, there's nothing, so for example, right, I would be interested in knowing what the search firm does in terms of reaching out to the community, making it an inclusive process, et cetera. Is that something that we should just? That's not something that, should we expect them to include that in their proposal?
Well, I would like to not, I'd like to see what they give us, to tell you the truth.
Rather than flag.
So I think that would say a lot about
it. Okay.
That's my personal, I think what you get when you don't give them too much direction will tell you a whole lot about who they are.
Okay.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to helping our ad hoc committee?
Yes.
Okay, so right now this would be the time for public comment. If anybody in the public would like to address what are the qualities that we should look for in a search firm to help guide the ad hoc committee. That is what I'm looking for. Anybody has any? Thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us.
I got you. I'm Melanie with 2 students at Tam High. I actually am completely mentally fried from the conversation that we've been having for the last 2 hours, and so I wanted just to come up and say I don't really have anything meaningful to contribute to this, but I will inform myself and hopefully be an active supporter of the process. But I did want to thank in particular every member on this board for the commitment that you make. I mean, I'm exhausted, and you guys are still going at it. So I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to thank you for really hearing the public comment tonight. I heard it said back to us by many people, and Mr. Walter, I want to thank you in particular for that, for hearing what was said tonight and for including that in your recommendations and opinions that you shared with the board. So I guess I'm off topic, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
I'm Duncan Drexel. I'm a parent of 2 high schoolers at Tam, and I, like Melanie, wanted to say something that's a little bit off topic. Before I do that, I did want to say that looking for a firm that actually will look beyond, let's say, the polished players. You know, back to the comment that was made here is that we're not looking for an all-star. We're not looking for the person that goes and speaks at national conferences. We're not looking for the nameplate. We're looking for somebody that's going to come and be a part of the community. And I know that's a part of the attributes we're looking for, but looking for a search firm that actually does that can find those people, that it's in their Rolodex. Because some of these firms, they just go back to the same people that are in their Rolodex, and so we don't want to end up with a firm that has a bunch of shiny candidates that aren't going to get us what we want. The other comment that I just wanted to make was a little bit back to timing, and I think it's really great to hear, and I'm very encouraged by the dialogue tonight, so I thank you all, like Melanie said, for your dedication to this. I'm encouraged going out of here, and I felt very disencouraged before I came here tonight, and I just want to leave a parting thought that
putting the teachers first is a really big part of what's missing right now in the current administration, how things are being run. Culture is very foundational, and it takes time to change. So it's going to take time to really move this in the right direction. And the other thing I would encourage you to do is really look deeply into the nature of what the challenges are that are going on in these different schools. It's not just the leadership. There have already been things put in place that are damaging the quality of our children's education. My kids come home and tell me about things that are alarming me, that upset me, that I'm here in this school system, and that's why I'm here tonight. So I just want to bring this back. I know everybody's tired, to a real place of this is now, it's happening now. And so you may need to also look at what are the things that you can put a stop to or a hold on or maybe even roll back that are in place now. We have half a school year left just because we don't have to wait around till the current leadership leaves. There are some things that are in place that are going to roll into next year if you can try to, my kids are here for a couple more years, I'm here for the future kids, but I'd also like to see what can you do to try to turn around some of the things that are wrong going on right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drexler.
Leslie Lundgren again. Actually, I did want to mention, I have to say I agree with Bob that it would probably save you some time if you knew some fatal flaws off the bat. You could include it in your RFP and say if you have only been in business less than a year, or if you have an association or employee that is part of the union district, you're not qualified to provide the proposal. My only concern is that it's a lot of work, as you know, to review proposals, and it's really hard when you start comparing them and they're all very shiny and boilerplate. And even if you choose not to go ahead and ask for specific information, you're going to have to decide on some objective metrics in order to evaluate them, in order for you to be able to have a meaningful outcome or be able to really defend which ones you screen out. So I'm very, I want to say sympathetic, but I think it's a huge task that you're undertaking, and I really recommend that. And I'm sorry, I've heard your name is Walt, and I forget your last name, but I haven't met you, Mr. I just need to call you Walt. I've never met you, so Mr. Walt. But he sounds like he's a great resource, and I think the first thing to do is to talk to people that have used a lot of outreach, I keep calling them outreach, but headhunting firms, and find out where they've gone wrong. So you will go into this ahead of time with some criteria, and maybe getting statistics from the firms of previous placements and how long have their placements lasted in each district, and so that you can see if you notice any trends and what their success rate is. And I just think you've got a huge task, so good luck.
I'll just say real quickly, it was kind of interesting, one thing that they actually include that.
Oh, good.
Well, some of them do, not all of them. That's, again, will tell us a little something, but some of them do include how long they're still there and how many places. Very interesting. Thank you very much, but I do think that that's a good criteria.
Just wanted to go back to my story and reiterate, looking at the language of the RFPs, making sure that there's kind of a respectful tone. And that goes for teachers, classified, of course, and I always emphasize the students because often it's almost appropriate to disrespect students or to pigeonhole them in negative ways, and I just keep an eye out for that. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Robbie. Okay, so as I said, now I'm closing the public comment and bringing it back up for discussion amongst the board. What qualities would we like to see Chuck and Laura, to help guide them in this committee of looking at the 6 vendors and coming up with a creative interview? You want to start, Bob, or I'm happy to start.
I just have to trust that they're going to look at what they get and they're going to make some rational decisions. I'm a little concerned actually about the process by which we're going to, if we have 1, 2, or 3 firms, how that's actually going to unfold in a public forum. I foresee that being a difficult situation. I don't know how that will work. But that's something that maybe the committee, as they deal with the individual firms, will come up with some sense of how that might unfold. But I think some attention needs to be given to that.
Well, one thing I could do maybe is go back to some of these school boards and find out how they went about it, rather than talk to the vendors.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm happy to do that now that I have a relationship.
I can tell you, I've anecdotally talked through MCSBA to 3 or 4 of the other districts that are out looking for a soup, and I don't know any of them that have whittled it down to 3 candidates and then interviewed those candidates in a public forum.
All of them did.
Yeah.
Every single one of them did. So that's why I say I'm happy to call the presidents and just find out their process. I do have their agendas. I have their agendas and how their agendas are laid out.
I knew they interviewed a finalist in 2 cases, but I didn't know they interviewed others and then made a decision.
Yeah, no, legally, it has to the interviews have got to be in public, and our discussion will also be in public.
Okay, cool.
If they weren't done that way, then actually those districts were out of compliance. I've checked that with our attorney. So the one I do like what Leslie had said, I would like to put on, for you guys to consider how many placements they were able to make and how long those people stayed. Because that to me signals a good fit. So that is something that I'm looking for personally. I would lean towards those that have a deeper roots in California for their searches. I don't rule out more national searches, but it would have to be somebody for very specific reasons. That's personally one of the things that I would be looking for. Maybe other people don't agree, but that would be my leaning. Other than that, I'd be interested in how they go about soliciting the public comment and how deeply into the staff and how, descriptions of how they go about it. Because I'm looking for the most transparent and the most inclusive, not just the most conclusive, but also the most transparent. And I think sometimes those two are very different things. So that's where I am right now.
Okay, I'm with the last part of what you said. I'm in absolute agreement that I would like to have a search firm that really gets to know our schools and our communities before they go out to look for candidates. I think it was Walt talking about interviewing hundreds of people. That's what I'm looking for, someone who, a firm that really gets to know us and gets us.
Yeah.
Gets us.
Anything you want to send them off with?
Well, one of Walt's slides seems particularly focused on the process of search, right? See the current transition in leadership as a time to build transparency and effectively engage with community and employees, developing a profile of qualities and characteristics for the next superintendent. The process for gathering input, will be clearly defined. Right? That addresses what you've said.
That's what all of it, and
on the board,
it's what all
right?
of us.
So it's stated right there. So that seems to be the consensus. I agree with you in terms of deeper roots in California. I think all things being equal, I think it would be nice to have someone who has greater familiarity with some of the peculiarities of the educational system in California.
Do you want us to look for, they get a plus mark if they mention basic aid, like have any clue that we're a basic aid district, or,
well,
Chuck and I are going to be screening these things, and
I think basic aid is really important, right? Given the decreasing number of districts that are funded from basic aid, and given the calamitous consequences of basic aid, of basic aid funding no longer being available to our district. I mean, that was one of the things that I mentioned to Walt in my, so I think it's, I mean, right, you're looking in proposals for people who are clued in part to some of the issues that we're dealing with, right? That's a pretty fundamental issue, right?
I also wrote down, we heard this tonight too from several people that came to the mic. It'd be nice if in these proposals we see all or most of them talk about going out to find people, not just relying on advertisements and applications. So that part of the proposal I'm going to be looking at. I want to know how they
I'd agree with that.
go find these folks that meet all the criteria we're looking for.
Yeah, I don't think we want a firm that Linda Kreitzman described that just sends out emails. You know, we want a firm that, you know, that knows where people are and picks up the phone and makes the call.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. That would be a very high criteria to me. Absolutely.
The fee structure too, that should be pretty detailed.
Yeah.
So we know if
learned
it's
a
a
little
la
bit about
carte or, you know, what we get with $25,000. That should be clear.
Yeah, because we did learn that when Laura was asked, one of your firms that you talked to, that they have a set base and then they have, what did they call it? It was like,
They call it a la carte.
A la carte.
Yeah.
And some of them are all inclusive right off the bat. So it's kind of, that's also going to be something to take a look at for sure. See what's included, what's not. Other than that, I think you guys will do great.
So the process is that we expect all these RFPs back by February 6th, and then Chuck and I will review however many come in by that date.
Right. And Jeannie, as they arrive, you can just send them straight to Chuck and Laura, because they may get here even way before the 6th, so you get a chance to get started.
And then we will notify the firms who have been selected to come interview. And the three of you, how?
Well, and like I say, I'll do some investigation now that we've decided these steps and where we are. I'll do some investigation on how that works, and I will let both of you know, because we can communicate that through process.
I would just urge you guys, if you feel like you need to reach out as you go through this process, to reach out to Walt or to Mary Jane, or, you know, you can't reach out to us because it would, you know, in light of the Brown Act. Right. But reach out to, you know, people, you know, with
And Mary Jane has given us carte blanche. I've got even her cell phone. She said I could give it to you guys, so I will do that. I will give you her contact information, because she really wants us to be successful, and she's very much behind us 100% on this. Is there anything else that you guys feel like you need? Are you okay?
We'll start squealing for help.
Okay, so I will do these edits, and I will meet Jeannie tomorrow morning in the office, and we will get the RFPs out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.